compartmentalize his behavior. You hear them say all the time things like, well, I don't like who he is as a person, or I don't like the things he says, or I don't like how he treats women, but I do like how he ran the country, or I do like his policies. And it is just, it's been in there they've now voted for him at least twice, sometimes more. And in doing so, they have figured out how to kind of bracket his really horrible behavior from what they like about him as a president or what they like about his policies.
And by the way, if you're driving in your car right now, listening to the radio, we've put together a helpful voters guide for Republicans. And Trump, Haley, Hutchison, and Scott sparked violent insurrection. Trump, yes. Libel for sexual abuse. Trump, yes. Indicted on felony charges. Trump, yes.
Right.
Hoarded classified documents and refused to return them. Trump, yes. Subject of civil fraud lawsuit. Trump, yes. And called for terminating the Constitution. Trump, yes. And then the last two accepts legitimate election results and supports Ukraine. No on those two, but yes for all the others. You know, it's interesting, Gene Robinson, listening to Sarah and talking about this abusive relationship with Republicans and talking about Republican women. You know, what I find so rich is these are the same Republican women, type women, primary voters that would come up to me yelling repeatedly in 98, 99, and 2000 after he wasn't impeached, saying, what is wrong with Congress? They're corrupt. Bill Clinton's behavior is disqualifying in and of itself. Right. We are collapsing as a nation. And I hear preachers getting in pulpits saying the first sign that the nation is going the way of Babel, are going the way of Sodom and Gomorrah, is that Bill Clinton was not impeached. How can we get past this? And the women, again, character is king. And then again, who's the guy, Bennett, who wrote his book of virtues and got rich off of attacking Bill Clinton's character. Now, of course, he's the first one in line defending Donald Trump. I could go on and on. When character was king, I remember that book. I forget all the details of it, but there was Republicans just swam in this stew for 2 or 3 years about how horrid American democracy was because Bill Clinton survived despite the fact he was such a horrific man. And with Donald Trump, they're like, he's the best guy to lead us.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, you mentioned the preachers. So let's talk about the preachers for a minute. Where are these evangelical preachers who, yes, when they talked about Bill Clinton, but when they talked about Hillary Clinton, when they talked in general, when they preached, they didn't preach that morality and decency were things that you could just leave aside. They preached about Jesus and what Jesus said and did, and how our Christian walk should be in trying to emulate as far as we can those virtues and that kind of generosity and indecency, and to then turn around and just say, well, Donald Trump, never mind, A, B, C, D, E, F, G down to Z, is just incredibly hypocritical. And I don't understand how the preachers look at themselves in the mirror. I don't understand how their congregations don't kind of scratch their heads and say, but, aren't we supposed to try to be good and decent? And isn't that the whole point? But again, here we are.
And as if to show.
Welcome to another episode of RBN Live Tuesdays. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick? What's up, JB?
Hey, what's popping? My friends, my family. It's great to see my brother JB back as well. Hope you felt the love from our community. Good to have you back, JB.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good to see you guys. Look, it was good Lord, it is coming down out there. Welcome to Florida. But yeah, it was it was a short but very somber weekend. Having to say goodbye to my grandmother, and so I'm exhausted because jet lag is, y'all know, and it's just part of me is kind of also angry because I was talking about this earlier in my show today, that those of us who are lower income, it is a struggle just to be able to mourn your loved ones. And I don't think that's fair. Those of us who have had to mourn loved ones, we've had help even to just try to have to pay your rent, and then trying to save money in order to be able to travel to see, your loved ones, to console them. That's a lot, man. And I think honestly that shouldn't be. But given the system that we live in,
And to rich people, that's payday time, inheritance.
yeah,
That's inheritance time for the upper class. Meanwhile, for poor families, like financial devastation, I lost 2 grandparents last 3 years. So go ahead, Jay.
yeah. And I know that, you and CJ have had loss. And God, it's so difficult. And the thing is, like, how people say life is not fair? A lot of people on the right will say, well, life's not fair. And I'm like, but why do we exacerbate life not being fair by increasing the unfairness? It doesn't make sense. It is crazy. And the thing is like, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, JB, but just accepting the current state and the hand that the government gives you, there's no bigger cuck behavior than that. There's nothing that is more anti-patriotic, I believe. Things suck. Oh well, fuck it.
Yeah.
Think life is tough. What kind of cowardly mindset is that? But that's the mindset of the majority of Americans. Some Americans say, "Oh yeah, we got homeless people who fucking things sucks, whatever." I don't want to live in the country with homeless. You guys don't have pride in that? But JB, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. And then I was talking on my show today about there's an algorithm that was set by a company that was called RealPage, and this algorithm sets rental prices across the nation, which is part of what's pushing the nation to have this huge influx of higher rent prices. So people really just reasons why they have this algorithm is because, and quoting them, is that a lot of these leasing agents and property managers are too empathetic when it.
I think you're cutting out, JB, or at least I can't hear or see you, JB.
Yeah, maybe you've been cut off for a little bit.
Yeah, and he did say it was raining, so that could be affecting. There he goes. There you go, JB. Yeah. Now we can see you. Yeah. If you can say that last part again, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is why it is partially, pushing this whole influx of having extremely high rents within the country, where people like myself and many of us just can't afford to pay for rent.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to your point, one of the things we're going to be doing, because this is kind of like, you just got to kind of see when it on the streets, because what happens in the LA area, because poor people don't have money. I'm sure it happens everywhere. I'm sure this will sound familiar to both of you. Somebody died, they don't have money. What do you think they're going to do? You think poor people are just going to throw their loved one in the dirt? You see people out in the streets raising money, literally in the streets. They got a bucket and it's like a picture of the loved one usually. And, some writings, this person suddenly passed, raising money for funerals. And that's just to tell, when you're a capitalist, what do you say about that? Like, what do you say that there's people? What is the critique on the system that there's people who have to do that to raise money? One is a critique on the cost. The cost for these funerals. These funeral homes should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. Hospitals and funeral homes, to me, are some of the most despicable capitalists to profit off when people are literally at their deathbed, sick, or is mourning the loss of somebody. And they're like, oh, I see money right here. Like, you know how disgusting that is? But it is a critique on that people are in the streets. And what I was going to say at our chapter, we see that, stop and get their contact information, and we're just gonna, see what we can raise. And
That's what's up.
I think we did it once before. I did it once before a few months ago.
Let me ask you guys for your perspective on this, and I don't want to deviate too far from what we're going to be talking about today, but this question just came up to my head. What do you think of a central planning model where we actually have just government funded bereavement, burial, all that, oh my God, what's it called? Cremation, everything done, including your travel, everything to bereave the person, because they have access to the death certificates and all that. So why
I don't think there should be.
profit-
I don't think there should be any cost in birth or death. Think about that. There's
Yeah,
cost to be born, to be existing. And I don't think there should be a cost either way. It should be like, our traffic lights. It should be like, just like in healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of things that just should be part of any sort of functioning society that you should already just have this there. Go ahead, Nick.
Our role as communists is to eliminate the profit motive of immoral industries. So I would be 100% for that. There should be zero profit motive. It entailed the people that do the work of cremation, undertakers, they need to be compensated for their labor. But that should be handled by the proletariat, the state, where they have a set wage, a living, thriving wage, because that's what we advocate for. But you're not profiting off people's debt. You're making the same amount of money each year, doing good work for the community, making a great wage. That's what we advocate for. There should be no profit motive in death and in birth. And CJ, you said it beautifully. So JB, to answer your question, I think that's my position. Always will be interested to talk with Marxists with different point of views, but that's my interpretation what our position should be, at least.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, because I that's how I've been feeling, and looking at how it was dealt with. Like, of course, my aunt, she handled most of it, but she shouldn't have had to, in my opinion. You know what I mean? She should have just
It's
been
a burden.
Okay,
it's a burden that
Sorry,
sometimes, JB, tell me if this rings true to you. It's a burden that sometimes can cause friction. This is why I say capitalism is so destructive. People don't understand what's connected. Like they be like divorce rates. You tell me a divorce, you eliminate the profit problem, and you tell me how the divorce rate will almost disappear besides incompatibility. But it's like, how many people it's just, and then people, well, I paid for the funeral. You seen this on this famous Black family movie? What's that? Mama, the one with the mama that dies. I forget her name. I forget it. But anyway, with Nia Long, forget that family movie.
Individualistic free market capitalism.
Right, exactly. You know the movie, JB. Yes.
No,
so it's where the story of a Black family, and it was Vanessa Williams was the rich one in the family, or the rich sister, and she was like, she felt like, I'm always paying for stuff. It causes that friction, and I mean, it's like it's that's what capitalism is calling these sort of relationship problems. Go ahead, JB or Nick.
No, you were
Go
talking about where they have the Sunday dinners at Mama's house every single Sunday.
I forget the name of the movie.
Soul Food,
Somebody
yes.
in the comments. Soul Food. There you go. That's the name of the movie. Yeah, Soul Food.
But
absolutely. Go ahead.
I love making this point, having a conversation with conservatives. I remember I made one with a Black conservative, the story I told all the time, when a conversation I had with a Black conservative during my time with the Birthday campaign, where I was like, what's more anti-family values than making it so that the father must have 2 jobs and not able to raise their kids, only 1 day off, not able to, and then the 1 day off, they're too tired to do shit. But you talking about strong family values? Well, what's more anti-family values than having a system where your family can go bankrupt because they don't have health care, not having paid maternity leave? Like, what's actually family values? Marxist ideas is the most pro-family values. Our ideas are the most pro-family values. We want people to be paid their fair labor value, enough so they can have no time to spend with their kids. Capitalists want you to work 6 days a week, 70 hours a week. You see your kid one day you got your kids. The rest is with me. That's their mindset.
Right.
They are not pro-family. They're anti-family. That's why I love twisting conservative talking points on their head. I do it all the time. I live in Missouri. Talking to these people is easy. It's easy. Are you for small government? Tell me why you like to spend so much money on the police. I used to call them out for the CIA and FBI, but now that's shifted. I used to be like, the CIA and FBI. I can't use that talking point no more because they actually
No, they'd be like, yeah, let's do it, Nick.
So that actually changed. I go to the police more because a lot of them would say, yeah, fuck yeah, we need to spend less on military budget. I just tell them to show me, put your money where your vote is, I guess. Like if you voted for these war hawks like Josh Hawley, like I'm in Missouri, you saying that means nothing. Like you need to draw the red line. That's why I try to tell these people, but it's a good trick to use, guys. Like liberals hate to do it. They suck at talking to conservatives. But take what they say and apply it. You want freedom? Stand for Julian Assange. Why are you not speaking out against the Patriot Act? You talking about freedom? You're a patriot, but you don't want people to have health care? You don't want people to have paid maternity leave? I'm willing to pay more in taxes so we have a higher quality of life. You're not, but you're a patriot? You want to pay taxes for corporate bailouts, but not for your neighbors, but you're a patriot. I live in Missouri, guys. I've been around rednecks and Republicans my entire life. I used to sell cars in Kansas. They'll never had anything to say with me. They all knew I was socialist. Never had anything to say with me. They're like, I don't read. He's not a Democrat. I don't dislike Nick. He's not a Democrat. We get that all the time. You get it all the time. Conservatives that watch us like, yeah, actually, you're Marxist shit, Nick. I don't like hearing it. You're open border shit, Nick. I don't like hearing it. But I actually like you. I like hearing your opinions. Like, we get that all the time. You got to be able to have an effective way of spreading your ideas that reach people culturally as well. That shit may not work on the West Coast, East Coast, but I live in the Midwest, which is why DSA liberals that be like, Nick, don't talk to this person. You can't talk to this person. I'm like, who else am I going to talk to in Missouri? Anyway, that's my last funny rant. CJ, JB, anything to add before we get to stories?
No, but I don't know if before we move on, I did want to hear you guys comment on the intro video.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to say on this.
When I saw this, I was like, man, the cope
that intro was
in this like little 4 minute, almost 4 minute segment.
Oh, you're gonna see more cope, CJ.
It's like incredible.
You're gonna see more cope because I have another great video segment. I think there's a great follow up to this. That could be our first story, which leads into the Lula story. This is pure cope where they pretend that Trump is somehow uniquely evil compared to the Republican Party. Remember what he said earlier in the clip? He said, back in my day, the Republicans used to be decent. They used to invoke God. And I'm like, hey, I remember when I was in middle school, George W. Bush used God to justify invading Iraq. You guys remember George W. Bush said that God told him to invade Iraq in a dream.
We are clowns.
That's the Republican Party. You guys
feel for that. We are literal clowns. If we feel for that, we are literal clowns.
I was a kid, like, what the fuck is going on? Bro, it was so ridiculous. I explained many times before, I am anti-imperialist. I cover foreign policy the way that I do because I was radicalized during the George W. Bush era. Like, there's new Gen Z liberals out there, Gen X liberals with bad memory who like, I'm radicalized because of Trump. I'm like, do you guys forget Dick Cheney? He said he said God told him to invade Iraq, which led to 2.5 million dead Iraqis, 10 million plus displaced. There's no bigger psychopath. But meanwhile, on Morning Joe, oh my God, the good old day. They used to invoke God to talk about killing brown people. We miss those days. Are you serious? Trump is mild compared to Reagan and Bush and these psychopaths.
Go ahead, Debbie. But isn't it funny how a lot of these people are now laundering the legacy of George W. Bush, and they're saying, "Oh, well, he's a good guy now."
Just a good old country boy that hangs out with Michelle Obama. I do want to point out a couple of points here.
Look at this.
I don't know if you saw it, but Mika actually falls off a script and she almost breaks character and laughs when Joe says, I don't remember the book or something. I can't forget the name of the book or something like that. She lays back and she almost breaks character right there. These people understand that this is all just like bullshit script. Watch, that's one of the points, and then there's something else I'm gonna point
I want to go back to the chart too later, but we can play the clip.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me know You guys, let me know where you want me to stop it here. I'm gonna put it right here, actually.
They long ago made their accommodations. They've long ago figured out how to rationalize Donald Trump's behavior. And listening to a lot of these women, they really compartmentalize his behavior. You hear them say all the time.
You know what I wrote down for this when I was hearing this is that this is corporate media, Morning Joe. This is them rationalizing why their propaganda against Trump is not landing, is not working.
Yep.
So she just came on to say, yeah, so they kind of compartmentalize these things, guys. So it's sort of a way of making them feel, okay, it's not us. This is an extra thing, like an extra thing that's not this abnormal. It's like an abnormal thing that's happening, an aberration. Normally our propaganda would work against any other politician, but so she's here to kind of give him that cope. Go ahead, JB, if you were gonna chime in.
Well, that part of that compartmentalization is that they're looking at their bank accounts in 2016 to 2020 as compared to now. And if it's actually lower now than it was later, then they're saying, well, that compartmentalization is basically my wallet. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the compartmentalization is. And people people are looking at, how it's benefiting them economically, whereas it is more disadvantage to them now. So if they really wanted to go with Biden, then they would have looked at their wallets and saw. But the thing is that this doesn't absolve Trump, because Trump is just as bad as Joe Biden, if not, Biden is more worse than Trump. But the thing is that they are seeing that how, it has affected them financially. People make decisions based on what their wallets do. And so if Biden wasn't going to make it better, then why in the hell would they go with somebody like Biden? And so this is why a lot of people are going, well, you know what? I don't like him and I don't like the way things he says, but I could afford my rent, in 2016 and between 2016 and 2020. And so that's what people were doing. And so these people, on Morning Joe, and somebody said in the chat about kayfabe, that's exactly what this is. This is okay. I know you guys remember the dude with the mustache with the bald head that used to interview all the wrestlers on WWF back in the day?
I don't recall, but I don't vividly recall.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So
that's
the guys that interview all the wrestlers backstage, like you would have somebody like Hulk Hogan be like, what you gonna do when the Hulkamaniac comes for you, brother? You'd have that, and he's talking, him and Macho Man Randy Savage will be talking. That's basically what Morning Joe is. That's all they are. They're the guy that interviews the wrestlers before they go up on the ring. That's basically what it is. CJ, it's true.
And I remember the guy you're talking about, that interview. He kind of had a big mustache. He kind of always wore like a funky kind of jacket, like a sport coat, kind of shiny. Yeah, I remember him now. Yeah. So all right, fellas. So I can't see you. Let me know when you want it to stop. Give me a verbal cue. Let me know when you want to stop it.
Things like, well, I don't like who he is as a person, or I don't like the things he says, or I don't like how he treats women, but I do like how he ran the country, or I do like his policies. And it is just, it's been in there they've now voted for him at least twice, sometimes more. And in doing so, they have figured out how to kind of bracket his really horrible behavior from what they like about him as a president or what they like about his policies.
And by the way, if you're driving in your car right now, listening to the radio, we've put together a helpful voters guide for Republicans. And Trump, Haley, Hutchison, and Scott sparked violent insurrection. Trump, yes. Libel for sexual abuse. Trump, yes. Indicted on felony charges. Trump, yes. Hoarded classified documents and refused to return them. Trump, yes. Subject of civil fraud lawsuit. Trump, yes. and called for terminating the Constitution. Trump, yes. And then the last two accepts legitimate
That
election
graph
results
is fucking
and supports Ukraine.
hilarious.
No, on those two.
Let's pause it right there.
Pause the bitch
I was
train.
waiting for him to go ahead if you wanted to chime in there.
Joe Scarborough, you realize you're on MSNBC, right? And they always do this all the time where they pretend they're giving great advice to Republicans. You just found out liberal talking points. Everything that you marked here, especially the bottom, when you look at supports Ukraine, accept legitimate election results, those are positives for Trump and the Republican Party. And the amount of delusion in the mainstream establishment regarding Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, and whoever the fuck this other guy is unbelievable. They really believe that they are going to be rivals to Trump. RFK, in a poll I've seen before, has support near as Ron DeSantis does against Trump.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about him as a threat. But they talk about these fucking goons like Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. If you guys think any of these random Republican NPCs stand a chance to get Donald Trump, you're delusional. And that's what they do every day. Pretend like, oh man, if only a good Republican steps up and reminds us of the Reagan years, it would have.
But they're giving
Trump.
Tim Scott so much airplay right now that like he's really legitimate. I'm like, dude, you guys are they're so desperate. Even with this chart, this is an example of what we're talking about. Even with this chart, what they're trying to point out, and what I want to zero in, JB and Nick, spark violent insurrection. Like these are just made up. So January 6th, that's a good thing. That's a plus for it. So basically, this is a plus. Just think of it from the voters' point of view, his voters' point of view. These are pluses. Like, maybe not liable for sexual abuse. That's the thing they overlook. Indicted on felony charges. That's not a thing, guys. You guys are just making up charges. So hoarded classified documents, same thing that Joe Biden and Pence did, and a bunch of other people has done. Like, what's the difference? Subject of civil fraud lawsuit. This is also part of the thing. The whole trying to take Trump down from being wanting to being able to run again. Call for terminating Constitution. Like, I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily, because
they all call for terminating the Constitution. They have done that since they supported the Patriot Act. Since they support imprisoning Julian Assange. These are attacks on the Constitution. So they have tarnished and terminated the Constitution through their policies. So only people who believe this are people who are in shit-lived bubbles, which is why Trump is winning +6 over Biden. Yeah. And polls show that most Americans are not buying Democratic culture wars. The most recent poll that we just covered on the post-duopoly show shows most Americans believe that Democrats weaponize the State Department against Trump. So all these things he listed, like, oh my God, legally felony charges, civil fraud lawsuit. Yeah, you guys are weaponizing the State Department. Everyone knows that. I'm not saying you're not guilty of crimes, but you guys can turn the State Department on anybody. Imagine they turn the State Department on Pelosi. Imagine they turn the State Department on George W. Bush when he left office. They don't, because they're the good people of the club. And most Americans know that, except brain dead partisans, according to polls.
Yeah. Right. One thing I was looking at is these guys aren't legitimately running with Trump. They're not. Because they are just there to make it, to put on a veneer of competition. But the Republican Party's already chose what they want, just like the Democratic Party's already chose who they want. That's really it. It's just a veneer of competition. It's not actual competition. I mean, dear God, like, you think like DNC fraud lawsuit, guess what? The RNC is just like them. There's no difference. So really, Haley, whoever Hutchison is, and
who
Scott,
the fuck is that guy?
Not really. They're just playing a role right there. The only person who actually thinks he's running is Trump. And even Trump is playing a role. They all play a role. That's all it really is. Like, y'all look, CJ, Nick, y'all know.
Yeah.
I don't care
exactly what this is.
The thing is, I don't care what Wikipedia says. I don't care if you guys see any Google articles. This dude Hutchinson, they just created this motherfucker in the lab out of nowhere. No one knows who the fuck that guy is. But look, the last thing I want to say on this is the last part is why I believe Ron DeSantis stands no chance. I don't know if you guys know. Breaking news. I don't know if you guys saw it. I literally just saw it before you got on stream. Ron DeSantis is going to announce his presidency in a Twitter space with Elon Musk. I believe that's tomorrow. I gotta look. This is like breaking news today. Yeah, this look. I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
Yeah,
we get back to the story because it's kind of related. It's also like breaking, like Twitter Spaces and all this is like trending number one. Tomorrow will be a non-scripted interview with Ron DeSantis on Twitter Spaces, and that's when he's gonna announce his presidency. This is only a 23-second clip. Listen to this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I will be interviewing Ron DeSantis, and he has quite an announcement to make. And will be the first time that something like this is happening on social media, and with real-time questions and answers, not scripted.
If you believe this is going to be non-scripted, you're out of your goddamn mind. For one, you are a giant chump if you believe it's going to be random questions. It's going to be non-scripted. That's not what's going to happen. The point is, Ron DeSantis is running. I just want to announce that it's breaking, but I also want to bring up the Ukraine point. After seeing how Ron DeSantis buckled on Ukraine, stands no chance. Like Marco Rubio came out against Trump, against Ron DeSantis, for his Ukraine statement. Remember during the Ron DeSantis questionnaire, and Ron DeSantis actually said some surprisingly good things about the Ukraine conflict. Not great, but he sounded more like the right-wing non-interventionist on this issue. And then the establishment Republicans like Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio in Florida melted down at him. And then he's like, oh, no. I actually think Putin's a thug. Now, compare that to Donald Trump when he went on CNN and they trying to do the same thing they did to Ron DeSantis. He backed down. Trump was like, well, you don't want Russia to win? Like, no, I don't want people to die. He didn't waffle like DeSantis. So I'm calling it. Like, this Republican primary is done. Like, there's that issue alone, let alone having Trumpomania. You got Trumpomania, plus they are wrong on Ukraine. Ron DeSantis is weak on Ukraine. He's going to pretend he's going to get it right, but he's going to waffle every once in a while. But after that town hall and watching Trump obliterate that person on Ukraine, it's a wrap, son. It's a wrap.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish that I could go. It's literally almost a 3-hour drive away from me. And if I had a car, I would go and I would actually cover it, but I can't. So I'm pretty upset about it, but I want to go.
Yeah.
And it's on Thursday too. I don't have that out. So I'm like, I could go. I always go there and start interviewing anybody who came up to was ready to talk.
Absolutely. Okay.
Too, but yes, for all the others. It's interesting, Gene Robinson, listening to Sarah and talking about this abusive relationship with Republicans and talking about Republican women. What I find so rich is these are the same Republican women, type women, primary voters that would come up to me yelling repeatedly in 98,
Look closely at Mika.
and 2000 after he wasn't impeached, saying, what is wrong with Congress? They're corrupt. Bill Clinton's behavior is disqualifying in and of itself. We are collapsing as a nation. And I hear preachers getting in pulpits saying the first sign that the nation is going the way of Babel or going the way of Sodom and Gomorrah is that Bill Clinton was not impeached.
She's looking at him. She was like Babel and Sodom and Gomorrah. Really? That's what you gotta say, Joe? If you can see this close up, she looks at Joe like, oh, like she almost breaks right there. But that's the first one. Go ahead, Nick, if you're gonna.
By the way, 55% and 56% respectively percent of white women vote for Trump. They keep doing this thing where it's Republican women versus Trump. No. It's black women and Latino women versus Trump. White women stay voting Republican. Do not get it twisted. And he had this thing. Well, what happened to moral Christian women standing up to Donald Trump? I don't know, Joe. Maybe you should ask this question. What happened to the moral Christian or moral progressive and liberal feminists who threw Tara Reid under the bus, threw Me Too under the bus, to vote for Joe Biden, who's cutting social spending, privatized Medicare, and funding Ukrainian Nazis? And I keep asking them this question: was it worth it? No questions on them for that. Both. If you are a duopoly person, we are post-duopoly leftists, you have conceded your morals. you have abandoned your integrity in order to continue to vote your party. I want you guys to realize that.
Absolutely.
Can we get past this? And the women again, character is king. And then again, who's the guy Bennett who wrote his book of virtues and got rich off of attacking Bill Clinton's character. Now, of course, he's the first one in line defending Donald Trump. I could go on and on. When character was king, I remember that book. I
Watch
forget
this.
all the details of it.
Watch her.
There was Republicans just swam in this stew for 2 or 3.
Because he brought up the book and he couldn't remember. He's like, I forget what's in the book. So she sits back and literally is holding in a laugh like, wow, I am actually married to this. She's like, wow, I am actually married. This guy is good. You're gonna get it tonight, brother.
3 years about how horrid
I'm not going to say what.
American democracy was because Bill Clinton survived despite the fact he was such a horrific man. And with Donald Trump, they're like, he's the best guy to lead us.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, you mentioned the preachers, so let's talk about the preachers for a minute. Where are these evangelical preachers who?
This guy, he starts babbling because they can't. It's like they can't go off script, and especially they can't go off script when talking about religion. Like it's really something that's very foreign to them, and you can clearly see it in the way that he's even talking about them, even if it's a surface level. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's what Eugene Robinson. Yeah, he's sounded the same for 50,000 years, but he babbles.
I'll play 30 more seconds of him babbling, and then we can close it.
Yes, when they talked about Bill Clinton, but when they talked about Hillary Clinton, when they talked in general, when they preached, they didn't preach that morality and decency were things that you could just leave aside. They preached
what are you talking
Jesus
about?
and what Jesus said.
What the fuck are you talking about, man? Like this is what makes neoliberals so disgusting is that they were whitewashing disgusting Reaganite ideology.
Yeah.
Newt Gingrich ideology of their policies when they teamed up with Clinton drastically increased childhood poverty with their social program cuts. These people are remember the anti-gay hysteria, especially during the AIDS crisis, that Reagan with Fauci worked together. Like these people was morally reprehensible. But these people like, remember when these amazing Republicans we used to have around? They whitewashing horrific people. And that's what Democrats and liberalism do. That's why they are weak fighting Republicans. That's why it would be better to have a more suitable left, real socialists and communists, because we will accurately call out their moral failings, while liberals like, man, we agree with you guys on most of it. It's small cultural disagreements and more of a career competition. That's what it really is. But I have a few super chats we can read, and I have another great video segment. I know JB probably had to bounce out soon.
Yeah, let's let JB say his goodbyes, and then we'll get to the super chats and your story, Nick. Go ahead, JB. You got the floor, sir.
Yeah, so I have to go, but one of the reasons why I have to go, and this is actually going to be a pretty cool announcement. I am going to be attending a class right after the stream with Midwestern Marxists. I'll be doing a Marxist class, so I'm going to start learning Marx from them. They're going to be teaching me Marx, and I think this is better for me because just reading, I'm not that good. So it'll be good. Yeah, so it'll be good for me to actually be in more of a classroom type setting to learn more, because I don't classify.
That's revolutionary discipline, guys. Like that's what JB is showing here is the willingness and the drive to continue to learn and grow as a revolutionary, as an educator. That's what everyone should try to do in their own capacity. Brilliant stuff, JB, but go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And if you guys would like to go with to Midwestern Marks for their classes, they do it via stream, Zoom stream. If you guys would like to, you guys can become their Patreon members, and then you guys can get access to that class. And so I'll be going there. Noah Krejcivik will actually be one of my instructors. So basically the Marxism 101. So
the JB show about to be fire as hell. Wait till a few weeks after these classes. JB, boy, that about to be fire.
Yeah.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah, so I'll be going there. And in fact, I got to be there in 5 minutes, so I got to get going.
All right, JB.
Yeah, have a great stream, guys. Also, look, I'm telling you right now, this thing about Ukrainian peace proposal, do your thing, because I'm sick and tired.
This is gonna be a fun. This is gonna be a fun segment.
Give them hell. I know y'all will.
So yeah, so tomorrow we're destroying the NATO left. Midwestern Marks, Eddie Liger will be joining me. Also, announcement. This will be interesting. Haas from Infrared will also be joining us. He did a reaction to the Vosh Eddie Liger debate, and he does a lot of coverage of Ukraine. He debated Vosh a few times. Gonna be interesting. First time Infrared involved. A lot of people asked for it. So I'm like, hey, why not? Fuck it. I'm down to talk to anyone. So he's gonna join me and Eddie. That's Nick and Knight tomorrow. Speaking of Midwestern Mark,
what's his name again? This is the guy that people have mentioned before. What's his name again?
Yeah, Haas from Infrared. He was close.
Haas.
A lot of people know
from
him.
Infrared. Is that two different people? Infrared and Haas? Is that the same person?
I think Infrared his channel and Haas the commentator.
Oh, gotcha.
He has a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Right, so. Take care, everybody.
All right, JB.
See you guys.
And all right, I'm gonna get to some super chats, and then I have some hilarious stories because we have what I want to call like Russiagate 4.0. I don't fucking know. I don't know what fucking number we on. It's very hilarious because you guys saw the cope that Moore and Joe have regarding Trump, but you also have the new Russiagate where they say, "Oh my God, Putin is helping Trump," and I'm like, "We still doing this? They still doing it." We'll get to that here very soon. But I'm gonna show you guys how Lula essentially renounced this Ukrainian peace proposal. But before we get to that, I'm gonna show you guys this disgusting propaganda coming from MSNBC that this is Andrea Mitchell, because they have the G7, and I saw this and this caught my interest, and this is a good warm up to the Lula Ukraine segment. Tomorrow night gonna be interesting because it's gonna be us dismantling the talking points that are coming from these NATO left Nazi collaborating people like Vosh and the liberals that cheer for him. The good thing is, like, if you look at the reception, man, especially after that debate, people are not buying Vosh's and the NATO left bullshit no more. So it's going to be very interesting. But this is they was at Hiroshima, and they was talking about the threat of nuclear war. And I'm gonna let it play, and I'm gonna point out the obvious what is wrong here.
Today in Japan, President Biden and G7 leaders met with a survivor of the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima in August 6, 1945. Kiko Agura was 8 years old, playing outside her home when the bomb fell, knocking her unconscious. 78 years later, she's now 86 years old and still working as a translator and a peace activist, dedicated to keeping the survivors' stories alive. Today's G7 summit is highlighting efforts to rid the world of nuclear weapons, with growing concern about Russian threats to use smaller battlefield nuclear weapons in Ukraine.
Huh? Wait, hold. Let me get this straight. Japan, as I told you guys for over a year now, the biggest cuck nation that's out there, and not the Japanese people's fault. It's the right-wing neoliberal government that kowtowed and bowed their head to U.S. imperialism. Do you guys realize what they just did? So a group of G7 nations with the United States met in Hiroshima to virtue signal about nuclear war. Hey, fuckface, it was the United States that nuked Japan, not Russia. You guys want to know the only country that dropped a nuclear bomb? The only country that dropped a nuclear bomb was the United States. on Japan, but they met with Japanese leaders to talk about how Russia is the bad guy and how they're a nuclear threat. You guys see how just like all capitalists everywhere, especially the people that come from who side with the oppressor. When Japan lost in World War II, the United States had essentially occupied it, had a very strong presence in their politics. Shinzo Abe, the former president who was just assassinated, was good friends with Nero Tanden. That was a giant thing. They had a lot of photo ops. They were very, very close friends with the Hillary Clintons. So just like many former enemies of Western imperialism, you have the preferred capitalist class take over because the United States will prop them up, and then they will sell their people out to the government, to the United States in the war machine. So in Japan, because capitalism rots our society, they have their own unique challenges and threats. Look at the depression rates, look at the suicide rates, especially among the youth. In Japan, there's a giant problem with the youth not being able to succeed in the system. There's a giant mental health crisis. There's a giant loneliness crisis in Japan. There's a wage theft problem in Japan. There's an overtime problem in Japan. A lot of people watch too much anime. They think Japan is a great place. Nah, they got a lot of labor issues in Japan, and it's negatively affecting their youth, their birth rate. So many problems going on in Japan. And dialectical materialism teaches us that capitalism shows and rears its ugly heads in different societies in different ways based on their cultural experience, based on history and many different factors. We see the negative influence of capitalism on Japan. It's been a complete failure. The youth is horrible. I see you, Ron. What's popping, brother? What's popping?
I'm just listening.
I'm showing this segment on Japan. I'm gonna give you, Ron. Actually, I'll put it down real quick. I want to see what's popping, Ron. What's good? I appreciate you joining us.
Oh man, all the freeways are down on the east side of Michigan. It's like everything is under reconstruction. It always happens this time of year. They get their contracts, from their best friends, the mayors and the governors, and they fuck up our traffic. So I made it.
Yeah, good to have you here. So actually, I can't wait to get your take on this story as well, because we just now got scratching the surface of the disgustingness. Jerome, I don't know if you saw, but you have Japan and the United States and G7 leaders meeting in Hiroshima. You know, the place the United States bombed and nuked? And then they talking about, like, we got to stand up against the threat of nuclear war. Look at how evil Russia is. Hey, last time I checked, Russia defeated the Nazis. Russia did not nuke Japan like you guys did. And this statement get even more disgusting. Look at what this guy is going to say. I don't want to spoil it. This is horrific.
Joining me now is Newsweek's former Washington
This guy puts on one of the top 10 most unhinged performances I have seen on MSNBC in our recent coverage. And that says a lot. Listen to this unhinged maniac.
Evan Thomas, the author of so many books, but the new book is Road to Surrender, 3 Men and the Countdown to the End of World War II. Evan, I learned so much from your book already. It's just fascinating about the stress on the deciders, on Henry Stimson.
Henry Stimson's in his diary, he would refer to the atom bomb as the awful, the terrible. They knew how terrible this thing was,
and they still
but they felt they had to use it because there was no choice. The Japanese were just determined to fight to the bitter, bloody end, and an invasion of Japan would have cost hundreds of thousands of American lives.
Hold on. Let me get this shit straight. Hold on. Let me get this shit straight. You guys doing a segment raising awareness over the threats and dangers of nuclear war, and then you bring on this psychopath who then justifies the United States using a nuclear bomb on Japan. You cannot make this shit up. And this has been debunked thoroughly throughout the times. The fact that the United States had no choice. And he just brings up this common, because there's been reports, even United States government officials, that says Japan's surrender was imminent in the summer. Now, if you are an imperialist, even if you're not a leftist, it's known that if the United States would have just continued conventional bombing campaigns, the Japanese government would close to surrender. You had Japanese military officials that later went on record and said, yeah, we're pretty much almost done. We're essentially done. And there's many different strategies, negotiation tactics that the United States could have used to prevent nuking Japan. One thing that's often talked about, they could have waited for Russian help, which was easily about to come. Historians talk about this all the time. When the Nazis were starting to be defeated, as Russia started to turn the tide, the United States either could have waited for Western backup. They could have negotiated for the emperor to remain and create a ceasefire based on that. These are one of the few things I should say that historians say that the United States could have did instead of nuking Japan. But I'm gonna rewind it just 15 seconds because listen to what this psychopath says on a segment that is meant to raise awareness about nuclear war.
They had to use it because there was no choice. The Japanese were just determined to fight to the bitter, bloody end, and an invasion of Japan would have cost hundreds of thousands of American lives and millions of Japanese lives.
And this has been controversial, of course, for decades. But you've done the research on the Japanese side also, with the profile of Togo. And so you're basically profiling three key men.
Yeah, Togo is nobody's ever heard of him. He's a Japanese foreign minister who helped persuade the emperor to throw in the towel. That was hard to do because the word surrender was forbidden in the Japanese government.
No, you want to see what he's doing? He is manufacturing consent. So you're like, okay, it was okay for us to nuke a fucking city full of civilians. This guy is you guys think Trump is worse than this? You guys think anyone is worse than this guy on screen that is trying to sell you on the idea that it was morally justifiable for us to drop a nuke on civilians? I saw this segment. I literally could not believe what I was hearing. Look, this is Zoya. Zoya's love. Zoya's life. The United States dropped the bomb as Japanese retreated on all fronts. The goal was destruction and spectacle to show the Japanese, the Soviets. This is a great point, Zoya. I'm glad you brought this up. And the whole world, what the potential of the new weapon was. And this is another criticism of the decision to drop the nuclear bomb, because the decision to drop the nuclear bomb was a political one, because they saw the rise of the Soviet Union and they wanted to send the Soviet Union a message that look at what we can do to a civilian city and look at what we are willing to do. So essentially it was a political decision. Are you seriously arguing that we should nuke hundreds of thousands of civilians for that, to send a message to the Soviet Union, which many government officials was called on record saying, yeah, this is what we want to do here. And also another problem with arguing about the nuking of Japan, there's so many of them that you can go over. The decision was deeply seated with racism, anti-Japanese racism. Look at Looney Tunes in the 30s if you want to see how Americans felt about Japanese in the 30s and the 40s. There was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment, and politicians used that anti-Japanese sentiment in order to justify nuking the country. If you guys don't believe me, the argument that many historians have used is if you think this wasn't based on racism, why not nuke Germany? In Nazi Germany, they did not do that because many Americans did not view the Nazi Germany as inherently evil. But U.S. propaganda managed to convince people that Japanese people were inherently evil. And there were songs, country songs. There was politicians that was caught saying that we need to wipe Japanese people off the map. We just need to bomb Japan, wipe their whole culture and society off. A lot of people don't forget about this.
Nick, he's saying it himself.
Go ahead, Ron.
He's spinning that same propaganda, to our generation, to our people now. Because what he is doing when he's saying, "Oh, they didn't even have surrender in their dictionary or in their vocabulary," whatever the fuck he said, he's dehumanizing these people. Dehumanizing these people. You can go back at any point. He has been dehumanizing the people of Japan. And this is what we do. We did the same thing with the people in the Middle East, called them terrorists. And we have hate crime going rampant up in America during that time because of people like this, because of the propaganda that they spitting out. And they these people, they make these people think it's justifiable. Like, just because a motherfucker is this way, oh, we got to take them off. Like, no, you could just leave them the fuck alone. But I love what Zoa has said, because I was going to speak on that. They wanted to shut down the USSR. They wanted to show off their nuclear power. They wanted to show off their bombs. And not only that, have another safe haven to go to, because not only did they bomb the shit out of Japan, they basically did a coup on it. They basically run Japan. It's just another island for us now. We stash our weapons. They even have Nazis in their military ranks, just like we have. It's crazy.
Yeah, and if you and the most important reason, there's so many arguments against dropping the nuclear bomb, but I don't know, probably the most important one is the fact that the use of the bomb was illegal. The use of an atomic bomb, look at this. I'll just read it. I think reading is better than me explaining it. Another one of the reasons against dropping the atomic bomb was the League of Nations. On September 39th, 1938, the League of Nations, under the recognized principle of international law, issued an unanimous resolution outlawing the intentional bombing of civilian populations, with special emphasis against bombing military objectives from the air. So if you're just some immoral jackass that believes the law is the world of land, you don't care about the immoralities of government because they should follow the law. If you want law and order, people, right? What the United States did was against international law. Point. Period. Amen. But nope. Law and order means nothing when it comes to the United States government and the wishes of imperialism. So I went a little bit longer on the segment, but god damn, this guy is triggering. So I'll play his part. And I'm pretty much going to wrap this segment up because I want to show you guys what the United States propaganda machine is doing, where they have a sham PR meeting talking about the threats of nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. Then they bring this guy on to justify the United States nuking Japan. And Japan's just sitting there taking it. Neoliberals selling their people out just taking it. And by the way, as Zoya said, there were Japanese people protesting the G7 because, as I said, this is not a diss on Japanese people, as always when I usually criticize government, because especially the youth Japanese has been held hostage by harsh neoliberal capitalism. The youth in Japan, just like in the United States, is way more progressive, way more socialist than their parents are. Like when you look into it, but they're politically repressed. Obviously not the exact same as us because there's small differences, but it's the same similar story. I'm playing this last part, and I'm actually like this it's almost like a mini segment. Then I'm gonna get to the Lula part. I wanted to show back to back insane pro-war propaganda, and I'm gonna show Zelensky at G7. So this is kind of my mini G7 coverage because Zelensky was at G7 essentially begging for weapons, begging for support in this war, and Lula famously renounced the Ukrainian peace model. I don't want to spoil it too much, but Zelensky was not happy with that. We get to that here soon. We just play a little bit more this cycle. I want you guys to hear the depravity of our ruling class. And these people will turn around and say, oh my God, we're so much better than Trump. You guys believe this guy? I have no high opinions of Trump, but you guys believe this guy's better than Trump. He has the moral high ground over Trump.
Basically profiling three key men.
Yeah. Togo nobody's ever heard of him. He's a Japanese foreign minister who helped persuade the emperor to throw in the towel. That was hard to do because the word surrender was forbidden in the Japanese government. They were determined to fight until there was no Japan left. Why? Part of it is a strange death wish, but also they wanted to get good terms. They didn't want to have an occupation, and they thought if they could make the United States bleed.
They didn't want to have an occupation. How dare they not want us to occupy them? So we're going to drop a nuke on their civilians. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
It'd make us really suffer. We'd give up. Togo, who's this sort of dour old gentleman, knew that this war was just going to go on forever and Japan would perish. So he and a little group around him helped persuade the emperor, you got to surrender. They do this at great risk. I mean,
so they persuade him. So they persuaded the emperor to negotiate for peace. You guys think you could have did that without the nuke? Which many historians believe is possible because generals and many people got to him. There was many paths to that. Hell, if you are actually pro-human, you could even give concessions. One that I was doing research before this. One historian argued that the United States could simply tell the emperor, like, all right, we won't force you to abdicate. We just make you a figurehead, head of state figure. We need a new government, but we're not going to strip you of your titles. And that would have been one way to persuade them to negotiate peace. Many tactics instead of dropping the nuke. That's like the most unhinged. If you put all the options on the table, CJ and Rome, all the options. What's the most unhinged one? Drop the nuke. That was the one.
But that's what we know. That's what we're good for. Is ethnic cleansing. Like that's what we known for. That's what we good for, and that's how we bring these people to their knees. You know, and it's crazy because you could have did anything. You could have did anything. They could have just killed him. But no, they go ahead
people argue like even the imperialist argument. Like there's imperialists that's like, man, nukes is too messy, right? So there are imperialists that argue that, hey man, why didn't we just do more conventional bombing? We could just do more conventional bombing that could have led to surrender. So even there are imperialists that don't even agree with the unhinged actions of the United States. I know because I always make sure I read up on the criticism that before this segment, and I saw people that clearly wasn't in line with me politically because it was based on the argument they was making. But even they was like, y'all niggas are tripping. Y'all was tripping on that. Any last thoughts? And I can get to CJ. Anything else you want to add? And I can get to the Lula segment. I actually do that segment individually because I wanted to do
but this segment, what I was thinking during this whole segment is how it's telling how imperialists, enslavers retell the story of what they did to people. And this is an example of how, like, you retelling it like they didn't want to surrender, like it's their fault. You know, it's told in the story as if, you know, me, like, you know, you enslaving you was benevolent. Us dropping on this bomb was benevolent because you didn't want to go along with, you know, what we wanted to do, and that's sort of the slant of
look how they
this
whitewashed the
book
fight
too.
between the natives. You know, the natives of this land. They whitewashed that fight and that history. They tell us that, you know, these people were savages and this and that, and they worship whatever the fuck. You know, they dehumanize them to make it like, okay, well, I guess we got to kill them. I guess we got to carpet bomb their town.
Like, that's what they do. That's what they do. I'm gonna get to some super chats. There's still much to discuss because this next story, I think you guys got a lot to say. Lula, almost spoiled it. I'm glad I did it because it's gonna be funny. I'm gonna get to some super chats I saw. Thank you for the $5, Eric. History repeats itself. First as tragedy, second as farce. Carl Marks. Thank you for the $5, Eric, friend of the show. Thank you for the $10, Jose, for your car rental to cover the announcement. Damn, I wish JB saw that. We gotta. I wish JB let us know, man. We can do stuff. We can do like we gotta support the community. We can do an announcement like, man, if you want to cover something locally in Florida, I'm sure you guys would love to see that, right? So we can make it happen. JB gave me a good idea. Like JB mentioned covering that event, and now that I think about it, dude, I will 100% be down live streaming me going to a Trump rally. Like I will, so you guys can see how I talk to these people. I would love to pick their brain. I would love to do that. That'd be fucking hilarious. Anyway, you know, the future of RBN, we see what's popping. So I'm gonna get to this next story. This is Lula at the G7, and Lula having wanted to meet with Zelensky. There have been liberal calls for Xi Jinping to meet with Zelensky, but it's clear that Zelensky does not want peace whatsoever, and it shows with his meltdown at the G7. And I'm show you guys what I mean here soon. This is Lula. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure this is the right video. This is Lula. He spoke at the G7 about the need for peace in the world, especially in Ukraine. Lula says while the North wants war, the South is seeking peace. The global South is seeking peace. So I'm gonna play the video first, and I'm gonna get to the part where Lula essentially announces the Ukrainian peace model. And Zelensky is not happy at what Lula is saying here. It's glorious. I'm gonna get to that here. So let's watch it first.
O que eu sinto é que nem o Putin nem o Zelensky estão falando com paz nesse momento.
I'll read it for people who are only listening. He said, what I feel is that neither Putin nor Zelensky are talking about peace right now. It seems like both of them think that somebody will win, and there's no need to talk about peace. I'm convinced that if there is no discussions around peace, this war could be a very long one. I think it's essential that we avoid that people continue to die. That's the same thing Trump said at the town hall, isn't it? Liberals want it down. How dare you say you want people to stop dying? Anyway, that's what Lula says. Not Bernie Sanders. We can't get Bernie Sanders AOC to say this. Let's continue. I think it's essential that we continue to avoid that people die. Only peace will achieve that. But peace is only possible if both sides want it. At the moment, when necessary to meet with Zelensky and then meet with Putin, I have no problems in traveling to Ukraine and to Russia. But for now, from what I heard from our representative, it's not possible right now. So we need to see when one of them will want to discuss peace. Yesterday, you listened to the speech of President Biden. He doesn't speak about peace. There's Lula calling out President Biden for his failure to advocate for peace. Once again, I got to look at the global South. Got to look to other continents, other leftists, instead of Bernie Sanders and progressive saying this. I would love to see what Voss's criticism of people like Lula. You have AOC, the Voss left. They were like, oh my God, Lula won. Yes, Lula. Look at me. I'm cool. I know socialist stuff. I know anti-imperialist stuff. They don't know anything about Lula and his politics. Clearly. He just renounced your entire foreign policy. Are you going to address that? Anyway, let's continue. He says that Russia needs to back off. I don't know if Russia will abandon its plan. I think it's necessary to have people that are willing to build an exit to find peace. There's a group of countries from the global South that want to find peace, which is something the global North is not being able to do. So there is a side that wants peace and a side that wants war. I hope the side that wants peace is the one that is victorious at the end of this. And notice that he called Biden out by name as being as one of the agents that don't want peace. Rome, anything you want to add? I got a few more parts of the story. I won't give you anything you want to add real quick.
I mean, he's correct, you know, and I wish, which he know, he just explained it. It's going to be harder than what it is right now to actually sit these people down and talk peace. Zelensky making lots of fucking money. He is gaining nothing but power in his country since he has taken office and kicked out opposition parties and anybody that opposes his power, you know. So I don't see a man being that high on power right now, you know, riding that horse. Pun intended, riding a high horse, giving up so much power that he gained so quickly, so freely. And I don't even think that it's up to Zelensky at this point, because, you know, if it was really just a war between Ukraine and Russia, this would have been over, you know. And this is like the big criticism from the NATO left or whatever. Oh, well, Russia taking a year to fight Ukraine, but like, no, Russia is fighting the whole West collectively, you know, like.
You literally have Western leaders, Rome. Western leaders literally said if we stop supporting Ukraine, that they will fall within days.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means that, nigga, there's been a war with NATO in the West.
Like, this is why I'm like, I wish peace was possible, but with people, it always comes back to the U.S., man, because everything that the U.S. like, we funding all the bullshit. We doing all this bullshit across the world, and it's always gonna come back to us and our leaders. The shit that our leaders is passing, the bills that our leaders is passing, is making this war stay on this long. You know, they keep sending weapons. Now they're trying to get air support out there. You know, I think something's gonna have to happen in the West or the U.S. in order for the war to stop, in order for people to find peace. Because when you have enemies at your negotiation tables, I don't think you can ever find peace, you know, because they always whisper in somebody else's ear.
Yeah, well said, Ron. I'm gonna show you guys some more of what Zelensky said. I'm gonna mute your mic because there's a little bit of echo, Ron, if you don't mind. This is what Lula also said. You have the Chinese peace proposal, which makes the most sense, which most people support. African leaders support the Chinese peace proposal. The Chinese peace proposal is very, very simple. Respect the sovereignty of each individual country. and respect referendums as well. So you have areas of eastern Ukraine, the Donbass, that will be independent because that is what their people want, to the tune of around 80 to 90%. The Chinese peace proposal also calls for Ukraine to recognize Crimea as Russia because Crimea voted for a referendum around not 70 to 80% to be part of Russia. There's no legitimate claim for Ukraine to have Crimea. So Ukraine is deeply unserious because Rome, one of their calls for negotiations is that Russia must seize and hand over. They must hand over Crimea. Bruh, y'all know that's not gonna fucking happen. So Ukraine, as Zelensky says, Russia must completely pull out of Ukraine and they must give up Crimea. And then we be willing to talk. Then we'll talk, Rome. Rome, give me your house. Rome, give me your house. Write me a check, and then maybe we can negotiate. That's what Zelensky's saying.
They know they're coming in bad faith because this is just for the naysayers or the people that's on their side. You should say, I should say, but don't want war. They want them to seek peace now because they see the numbers that they are losing. Like, let's be real, like not even the troll farms can cover up all that fucking losing. They have been quiet on Twitter lately,
Bro,
I see a handful of them, but they're not like how they used to be. But it's people out there that actually want peace. But this is just smoke and mirrors for like, look, we're trying. Russia is being Russia. They're being aggressive. They don't want to come to terms with us. They don't want to give us their fucking land. Like, come on, man.
Look at what Lula says here. Because Lula respond to the Ukraine peace proposal. This is the title, the main story. It said Lula says the Ukraine peace proposal, which includes a demand. Hold on, let me. Can you mute yourself, Rome? Do you mind?
Sorry.
Yeah. Just so you can speak whenever you're ready. Lula says Ukraine's peace proposal, which includes a demand for Moscow to withdraw all its troops and for Ukraine's full territorial integrity to be restored, amounts to Russia's surrender. So Lula says, you guys are unrealistic. You guys are essentially calling for Russia to completely surrender when they have no reason to. They're not realistic. And Lula says that's ridiculous. This is Lula renouncing the Ukraine peace proposal. And also, when you translate this article, because I read through the translation of this article, when you get the full quote, a lot of this led to Zelensky ghosting Lula at the G7. So, and this led to Lula like, all right, gloves off. And he came out with a statement later that said, I want peace, but there's not going to be peace because Zelensky doesn't want peace. Rome, Lula, despite all our criticism of him, right, is putting Zelensky on blast in the way that Bernie Sanders and the left should be doing in our country. So Lula and Zelensky is having a beef right now.
But you see, the difference is Bernie Sanders and AOC, now they benefit from these wars. Their people, their clique, they benefit off of these wars financially and, by the looks of it. By just the looks of having one for these dumbass Americans. But they don't benefit. The global South doesn't benefit from war. They never have, they never will, because they are in control of no shit like that. They never wanted to use power like that. China never wanted to use the power of their nukes. They use soft power. They use, friendships and build infrastructure, et cetera, because that is what's going to, help them in the long run. They're looking at long-term goals. We're looking at short-term goals. We're looking at how to make the most profit out of it. And that's why, that's why people in the South, that's why the leaders of the South, fuck that, because this shit don't benefit nobody.
Yeah, Ron, I have another story that's going to be near the end of this. We have African leaders that have essentially renounced the Ukrainian peace proposal, that essentially calling for peace in Ukraine. Africa and Lula's had enough. I don't know how much you've been following this, but Zelensky and
no, I heard everything. I can hear everything.
They are beefing. They are openly beefing. Meanwhile, compare that to how every Western leader has greeted Zelensky. Have you guys seen the embarrassing meetings between Boris Johnson, Emmanuel Macron, and Zelensky? They groveling over Zelensky. Meanwhile, Lula's sunning this motherfucker to the point where Zelensky is ghosting him in meetings. Look at this. And this is what Lula was complaining about. Brazil Lula says meeting fell through because Zelensky was late. And now Lula is very upset about this. Running through a few headlines here. Brazil's Lula upset at not meeting with Ukraine's Zelensky at G7. So there was many liberals that was like, man, why won't Lula meet with Zelensky? He needed to meet with Zelensky to hear from his side. CJ, remember the statement we did weeks ago when Morning Joe was like, why won't Lula just and these people just hear Zelensky out? Have a meeting with them. So Lula spoke the truth, called out Zelensky out for his unwillingness to have peace. So then Zelensky, being the child that he is, the diva that he is, then decides to ghost Lula at the G7. And Lula is not happy about it.
That's weak.
Weak. Because the one leader that is not groveling at the feet of Zelensky, he's too scared to meet. And liberals, predictably, after celebrating him being Bolsonaro, because they know Bolsonaro as the anti-COVID guy, as the Trump friend. So they kind of forgot who Lula was because of that. So remember, we was confused as shit. You had liberals like, yeah, Bolsonaro's got down. Lula won. I'm like, do you guys know who you're cheering for? You guys know? So now they realize like who they actually was on cheering for over Bolsonaro. Now there's a liberal reaction to Lula's recent statements, and there's quite a few of these on Twitter if you're interested. On the geopolitical stage, Lula is acting like a clown. Look at what this guy Paul says. The quote unquote anti-fascist who lays in bed with Ukrainian fascists, right? He said on the geopolitical stage, Lula is acting like a clown. He's making the most naked attempt to turn Brazil into a semi-colony of China.
Clowns.
Clown ass shit, son.
Clowns.
So Lula looking out for his best country's interests and expanding BRICS, wanting a Latin American only currency as he advocated for, that makes him a China colony?
That's what they mad about. That's what the fuck they mad about. They mad at him for working with China so openly and passionately and not being, you know what I'm saying, apologetic about it, you know, and not gobbling up that fucking war propaganda. Because, dude, what are you going to say to him? What is Zelensky going to say? Oh, we need weapons. We need Brazil to send us weapons. We need money. We need this. Like, hold on, bro. No, you don't need none of that. You need to stop your people from dying, man. Like, let's be real. There is nothing, like, besides other troops, besides American troops, which is already underground, but I mean by the hundreds of thousands, the only way that we can really put it, push back on what Russia is doing is by sending our own troops in, because this war is about to be wrapped the fuck up really soon if they don't push more people into the meat grinder. Because I don't know if you guys have seen those maps or have been paying attention to the war, but man, it's not looking good for Ukraine. I don't think F-16 or whatever the fuck guys, whatever, because you said this about the tanks. They gave you the tanks, you failed. Now they in Russia, hands. You're gonna give them the jets next? What the fuck? So Lula's looking out for his best interest. He thinking as a leader, and like, no, I'm not getting into this shit because that shit'll get my people killed. Get my, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying to have no blood on my hands. We need to find a way to all work together. We all live on this earth together. That's the best way. Yeah. But that shit don't make money. It make money in the long run, probably like 10 to 20 years from now, but you ain't about to get no 200, you know what I'm saying, billion from a country that put some peace.
This is the last part of my story. Then CJ, I don't know if you have another short story you want to do. I have one more short one, but I can always hold off if you have another story you want to cover.
I don't have a story, but there's the Twitter beef that I put on there.
Oh yeah, you can do that story next. Yeah, you can do that story next. That can be a quick, fun one to end on. This is what you was talking about, Rome. This is why I mentioned as well. It's only the U.S. cuck nation like Japan and Europe that America essentially colonized. They tried to shift Europe's energy dependence from Russia, and they did by force by being a terrorist state, bombing the Nord Stream pipeline, engaging political pressure. So they got Europe cut. There are a lot of people who are upset at Moody in India, even though the United States has been friendly with Moody. The United, especially under Trump and Obama, they were very friendly with each other. But now India was like, you guys are out of your fucking mind. If you think we got 1 billion people, you guys think we're gonna sacrifice our economy because of your stupid war with Russia? Moody said, fuck off. We still fuck with Russia. So their relationship with India was strained on it because of that. You guys see the relationship with Lula becoming more strained because of this. So remember when liberals said that Donald Trump was going to destabilize the United States relationship with our allies? It was actually Joe Biden. Now you have a lot of African leaders that renounce in the West. African leaders seek to persuade Russia, Ukraine to cease hostilities. First is cessation of hostilities. Second is a framework for lasting peace, South African President spokesman Vincent Mawagwe said. And they are not doing this thing that the NATO left do where Zelensky is off limit. They directly criticize him for not wanting war. You have the Egyptian president here who called for peace. Yeah, so you have pretty much the African people, many of the African leaders that I wish we could have the left in our country that essentially say the same thing.
Dude, like I'm not even going to cap. You know, some of these African leaders are some bullshitters. Whatever the fuck, they got some flaws, like a motherfucker, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if they, you know what I'm saying, with all their flaws, if they can look down at us, then that is telling us something. And like I said, none of these countries benefit from war because none of them have a fucking leg or a foot in the motherfucker, right? None of them have arm deals or no fucking contracts or contractors, private armies, et cetera, in it. So they don't benefit. If China helped us find peace in the Middle East, y'all, I wonder how that conversation went because there was a lot of money made in those wars during the Middle East. And if China and Africa and all these countries can sit down with the Middle East and bring peace to these countries and actually show them that there's a better way that we can all make money together or whatever the fuck their thing was, you know, it's crazy. That was a real blowback. That was a real blowback to America, to the US, because we was really dependent on a lot of those people hating each other. We needed them to do regime changes on themselves. Regime changes or ethnic cleansing on themselves in order to gain more power, in order to gain more money, or access to oil and land, whatever the fuck we was looking at them. But there's nothing that the U.S. can offer these countries besides a bomb on their land, on their people. There's nothing else, you know what I'm saying? Like, we wrapping it up here, you know? But they're going crazy. Like I had explained before, they're losing the power that they had to kill Gaddafi and get away with it. Like, that is some real power to kill a world leader, to kill the president, and just no repercussions. You're losing that power to other world powers, to other superpowers in the world. And like we see what China does to these people. China still hang bankers, man. Imagine if they had the power to.
They said it was kidnapped. Then the Western media said it was kidnapped. Like China go after the billionaires and people who commit financial crimes, and then Western media write stories like, "Oh my God, they kidnapping Chinese citizens." No, they prosecuted the banker. But go ahead, Rome.
I just want to say, imagine like the world is getting together against us, and imagine them actually having power over us and can prosecute a person like Obama, a person like Hillary Clinton, and they actually have to answer for those crimes. These people are scared out of their mind because they're losing that power, and they're gonna bomb every fucking thing that they can to try to keep that because they know they have nothing else to offer. They have nothing to offer besides fucking bombs and free labor. Like, man, they don't even do for their people. So how in the fuck can you bring a deal to Ukraine? How the fuck can you bring democracy to Ukraine when your people are gerrymandering and redline? You know, 1 in 10 black people can't even fucking vote. How can you bring democracy to another country? So it's all bullshit, and they just want to keep their power. But I don't see it. I don't see it happening. In the next 25 years, we're going to see a real change, especially with all these superpowers coming up. And I can't wait. I hope I live to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna read these 2 super chats I saw come in, and CJ, I'll pass it to you.
Absolutely, I got a quick story.
Yeah. Then for $5, Local Cola. What's up, my handsome RBN brothers? I am very proud of all you guys. Nathan and your sister Savvy are doing. Very proud of my brother Rome for the amazing work he has done with the library and building a real communist organization, Marxist-Leninist organization. I'm very proud of Rome. Savvy channel has blown the fuck up. I'm so proud of what Savvy is doing. CJ is doing amazing stuff with Long Beach. I'm very excited about the future of RBN, guys. Very, very excited. Very excited about our future plans in KC. Rome, nigga, people still be asking me, they were like, nigga, when next time Rome coming back down? Huh? Because I got a lot of big plans coming up, but I'm very, very excited about the future. Thank you for super chat. One more from Eric. Thank you for $5. Zelensky is just trying to get as much money before he cashes out. Well
the
said.
U.S. is going to kill Zelensky.
The funny thing is, I was just about to say that. Like, I think Zelensky made his bed with the wrong people, man. I think if things get convenient, they will easily take out Zelensky. But we gotta be careful what we say. Our Twitch account was banned. My Twitch account was banned.
What?
I realized that because you saw Jimmy R wasn't connected to my Twitch. I looked and my account was banned like a month ago. Like, oh, that was definitely from Ukraine. Apparently, like permanently suspended. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But anyway, it's all good. We gotta be on Rumble here soon anyway. CJ passed to you for last.
Yeah, I got a.
I actually have my story not too long. Y'all know how much time I got. I got one more story. It's a real quick, fun story. But you can go ahead and do your story here.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna try to do this quick story, and if you had another story, I can run and pick up my daughter real quick and hopefully make it back by that's over. But if it's not, you can always
we can wrap up this because I can always do
but this is a quicker story. I'm not gonna say it's the quickest story because this is the headline. I'll show you the headline, then I'll show you the video. U.S. post 9/11 wars cause 4.5 million deaths, displaced 38 to 60 million people. Study show.
Meanwhile, liberals think
amazing. Go ahead.
Liberals think that Vladimir Putin, Nicolas Maduro has a higher kill count than Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Even with the Ukraine war, still child's play. Still Putin not even close.
This is why I laugh at people. Communism kills. Communism kills.
Yeah.
Many people, that many, like, nah. Barack Obama got more blood in his hands than Fidel Castro. And Fidel Castro went out there and went out there and put in work himself. You know, Che put in work himself. And Barack Obama still got more blood on his hands. And they literally have blood on their damn hands. So you can miss me with all that crap. These people these are the real killers. These are the real gangsters. You know, me and Nick always explain to you what is a real gangster. You know, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. When you get a body count in the hundreds of thousands to the millions, you're not just a psychopath or a sociopath, man. You straight up gangster, and you get away with it, and you go on the TV. They just like rappers. Rappers kill somebody, they make a video about it, music track about it. They do a video, they make, you know what I'm saying? They do the same shit.
Rappers are emulating them.
You remember when Donald Trump dropped that fucking bomb, and then he went on Twitter and threw up the American flag? That's just like me shooting a nigga and throwing up my black rag.
Throwing up your set. Yeah.
These niggas gangster, bro. These some true gangsters, bro.
You guys, they separate. They don't think politicians are gangsters because I guess their kill count They're like, well, I guess they don't pull the trigger, I guess. So they're like, oh, well, it doesn't count for some reason. You guys think Al Capone pulled his triggers? You guys think these mafia dons is out there hacking people up by themselves? No, they got people they ordered to do it. The United States president is the commander in chief. He's the mafia don. U.S. soldiers are his mafia goons. Whack that guy over there. That dude over there talking shit. Wax him. Joe Biden, our current mafia don, just killed a farmer. That guy over there talking shit. I think kill him. Mafia don shit. Do you guys think? I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who was based off of Alejandro Souza from Scarface, the big drug lord that got Scarface killed in the movie. The guy he's really based on, that you guys don't know, he's actually based on a real guy that had government officials under his pocket. That's why, remember that scene in Scarface where he met with the government officials and so they were friends. That's real. I don't remember the guy name. I'm blank on that guy's name. Souza's. That's not the guy's real name. They changed his name, but that guy Souza is based on a real guy that was the kingpin, probably the best drug dealer of all time. Had the government paid off. He had people killed. Like you guys in the movie, Souza had Scarface killed because he sent a kill squad to his place. Squad. He did that all the time. So once again, do you guys think he wasn't killing people? But he had countless people killed because he sent death squads to people because he had billions rolling in every month, just hiring people to kill people. That is no different than the president decolonize your mind. There's no difference between Alejandro Souza and Joe Biden, in my opinion.
Let's read this. This is Ben Norton who breaks this down. That article, the headline is from Geopolitical Economy. It's in the description box if you want to go read the full article. But based on that article, this is the tweet and the video that Ben Norton put out, and I'll just read it. 4.5 million people died due to the wars, and because I wanted to make sure we knew which wars raged in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and Pakistan following 9/11. That's the amount of people of the wars after 9/11, basically. 38 to 60 million people were displaced. Today, 7.6 million children are starving in those countries. This is according to studies from scholars at Brown University. And let's let Ben kind of sum it up in this first 2 minutes of this video. It's a 5-minute video, but we'll listen to about 2 minutes of it and then get comment.
The wars that the United States waged after September 11th, 2001 resulted in the deaths of 4.5 million people and displaced between 38 million and 60 million people. That is according to studies done at Brown University, which is an Ivy League school, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. Scholars there looked at the devastating consequences of the wars that the United States waged in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Pakistan following the 9/11 attacks. This is the real deadly legacy of the so-called war on terror that Washington launched in response to the attacks on the World Trade Center. And we see the consequences still today. The report emphasized that still today, millions of civilians are suffering in extreme poverty and hunger and are still dying because of the consequences of these wars, despite the fact that the U.S. military withdrew from countries like Afghanistan. The people of Afghanistan are still suffering and dying because of the consequences of that war.
So I wanted to pause it here just for a second, because just think about it. We're just thinking about the dead bodies. This is not even a count of all the maimed people that lost alarm, lost a leg, kids have lost arms and legs. None of that. They don't have the same sort of medical sort of, not that we get it here in the United States any better, but they don't have the sort of medical options for things like being maimed. Just take this stick and walk around with it. You know what I'm saying? So just just think of that beyond a person dying, like the actual cost. And then this is another short, brief example here.
The academic study that found that 4.5 million people died because of the post 9/11 wars was written by scholars at the Watson Institute of International and Public Affairs at Brown University. And they run a very useful project that's called Costs of War. And they've published a series of reports. Back in 2021, they published another study that looked at the number of people displaced by U.S. wars following 9/11. And they wrote, 38 million people have been displaced, becoming refugees seeking safety in another country, or becoming internally displaced people within their own country as a result of the wars the U.S. military has fought since 2001. That is more than those displaced by any war or disaster since the start of the 20th century, except for World War II. By the way, they also stressed in the report that 38 million is a very conservative estimate. The total displaced by the U.S. post 9/11 wars could be closer to 49 to 60 million people, which would rival the displacement caused by World War II.
To put that in
Just wanted to-
perspective,
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to stop it
the
there.
way I always put it in perspective is Kansas City has around 750,000 people, 750,000 people. He says 60 million? They're like the United States killed like 75 Kansas Cities. Like think about it like that. Like the human brain have a hard time really understanding numbers when it gets that big. Like think about it in terms of city. Like what's the population of LA? I'm not talking about LA population. They said 3.8 million according to 2021. The United States killed about 10 to 13 LAs. You guys know how fucking crazy that is? How unbelievably insane that is. That's all I got to say. Rome.
Man, this shit. This is why I just don't get the mindset of a patriot, of somebody who loves this country. You know, somebody, especially our age and older, right? Because we all know that we went to these wars for lies. They even admitted it, you know, from the Republicans to Nancy Pelosi, even said that she knew that Bush was lying. You know, anybody who can look at, you know, these politicians who lied for this war, who cheerleaded this shit on, man. I don't know. You people can't be human, bro. You can't be. I just don't get how you still can support these people. I don't understand why these people are still in power after this shit has went on and they admitted that it was a lie. All these lives that has been lost and no justification for it. That's what makes it worse. That's what makes it worse. 60 million something displaced, millions killed, and nobody's in prison. Nobody has got killed for it, just like nothing.
They get Netflix show.
Oh God, Americans sickens me, man. Like I don't see. Oh God, this is really messed up, man. Because I know since we don't see it, you know, out of sight, out of mind, you know, it really don't hit your heart like that. But having enough education and a knowledge of what these wars cause and what they bring, that should be enough. You know, just seeing the videos of what has happened, you know, from us torturing these people to you know, just bombing civilians, shooting civilians, assaying children. The shit that went on in that war, and you still support our troops, you still support the government. You people can't be human. You can't be human. If you were, they have propagandized you so much now you are an android. You are a robot. Now you're being just programmed for the next thing, for your next task, for the next thing to cheerlead for. Because after that war, we after what happened in the Middle East, you Americans should have known better about Ukraine. You should have known that we was being lied to. But like I said, you all androids, man. They just take one chip out, put another chip in. In a minute, they're about to insert the Taiwan chip. And after that, it's going to be an African chip. And whoever else stands against us.
Yeah, what's up, bro? CJ, anything else you want to have before you wrap?
No, that's all I got. So we can super chats and get out because I gotta get.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a,
I think I read all of them earlier. I think I
okay.
think all of them. Just remember tomorrow, Nick at Night, special Nick at Night episode. We got Midwestern March, Hospital Infrared as well. That's gonna be interesting. We're gonna.
Hey, we gotta get that graphic made so I can get that out to everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit Aaron. That's gonna be interesting.
Get everybody on, yeah, because you can.
There were people that wanted us to have
him
on for a while. Like there's a lot of things we agree on, a lot of things we disagree on, and we're not gonna shy from it. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting show. But the theme mostly is gonna be the Voss debate. We're gonna talk.
Okay.
Eddie Liger, Troy Voss,
Yeah.
and Haas did a reaction to it as well. He debated a few people on Ukraine. So the theme of the stream is gonna be me, Eddie Liger from Midwestern Mars, Haas. We're gonna destroy the NATO left and also discuss Marxism because we all got our different interpretations.
Yeah, we got to get that graphic.
So that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun. I'm down. I tell you guys, I'm down to talk to anyone. I had someone that very close to Haas that been like bugging me. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Fuck it. Is he down for Wednesday? Let's do Wednesday. So let's do it. So I'm down to talk to anybody. So that should be a fun show. That what Nick and I is about. Anyway, that's tomorrow. That's gonna be lit. CJ, Rome, get. I'm gonna put your tour for the pour up, and you can speak on that to wrap up as well. Rome, anything you want to add?
Let me just say mine, and then I'm gonna check out because Rome has a lot. Rome, you should explain, get all your detailed information out so we can do this fundraising. For some reason, people have been asking about where to send it, and so this is a good time. But before we get to Rome, because I gotta go and pick up my daughter, make sure you keep your ear to RBN. We're really about to get activated into the streets a little more over the next, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. So just keep your ear to the streets and keep your ear to what we're trying to do. Make sure you reach out to us if you want to participate in these cities, Detroit, Long Beach, any of the surrounding cities, KC, Orlando, or Boston. If you're in any of those cities or surroundings and you want to get active with us, helping out, my first event in Long Beach is helping the people in Skid Row. Reach out to us by email. That's all I got, guys. All right, so I'm gonna check out.
Rome, let me put your tour for
Thank you, CJ. Thank you.
Please speak on that. Rome, what you got coming on? You got a big project coming up soon. I saw you posting earlier. I'll see if I can find it.
I'm going to Florida next. I'm about to post the pictures that we did in Jacksonville. I said Jacksonville, Jackson, Mississippi. We did another water run. Of course, I was.
Yeah, that's
there,
what I'm trying to find.
Yeah, I had boots on the ground there. It was nice. I had a couple people handing out water. Now we're headed to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going to be there in person because we're going to be starting a gun club down there. The Marxist gun club in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going to get the graphics for that. And we're going to be, while I'm down there, we're going to hand out 10,000 diapers, food, barbecue, children's clothes. Hopefully I can get like a prize or something for the people like I usually do. But we're going to be focusing on children in Jacksonville, Florida. And on my way back, I'm going to catch a bus to Boston so I can get my P.O. box and all that open. But in Boston, we're going to be opening up a clinic. There's going to be a little tent clinic. We're going to be exchanging needles, giving out antibiotics, condoms, et cetera, but we can wait on that. But for right now, what I'm focusing on is getting 10,000 diapers to the kids of Jacksonville, Florida. Florida is about to be going through some hardship, and I think strong. What they say, damn it, times like this just make strong people. Like when we all down to our last. It brings the best out of us, And I think if I can go down there and sniff out a couple of more strongholds and a couple more people, we can have a real good going on down there. But
yeah,
I'm focusing on 10,000 diapers in Jacksonville, Florida. Then I'm heading back up to Boston to open up a clinic, and after Boston, we're going to LA to open up a clinic.
Yeah, and if you guys want to support Rome, because he's doing an insane amount of stuff. Make sure you check out his Twitter. Why don't I actually repeat this again? This is his tour for the poor. I think this is the one the diaper runs you were doing. Rome is always busy organizing, so make sure you guys support him. If you're in Kansas City, I've been collecting emails. I'm getting the email list together. We're gonna start meeting here soon. I got a lot of plans. We're gonna do anti-war protests. We're gonna do diaper runs, barbecues, feeding homeless people. We got a lot. So I'm collecting email lists. If you're in Kansas City, email us at info.revblackout.com, and I'll reach out to everyone in our Kansas City email list to organize our events here. A lot of stuff going on. Thank you for joining us, Rome. Make sure you guys subscribe. Anything else you want to? Anything else?
I forgot. Donate to the damn library. I know I've been taking a break, but donate to the library. I'll be back on the library pretty soon. And if you want to donate to Tour for the Poor for the Jacksonville, just saying, when you send the money, send a donation, say what it's for, because I got to put it toward different places. But if you want to donate, Cash App, Tour for the Poor. I believe PayPal on Holy Rome 6, and Venmo is Tour for the Poor. And y'all can find me on Twitter on Holy Rome. The E is a 3. RBN is gonna be all around the U.S. pretty soon. You're not gonna be able to escape us. You're gonna start seeing benches probably popping up in your neighborhood. It's gonna be red and black with the hammer or sickle on there. But we're gonna be heading out to your city pretty soon. But donate to Tour for the Poor. Donate and subscribe to our Substack. We didn't say that. Subscribe to our Substack.
Yeah, and our Patreon, that's a good way, because we all need equipment. JB need equipment for what he's about to start doing, traveling, covering stuff. Any support, whether it's even $2-3 a month, we all work class people. We get it. So any support, I appreciate. I got to head out, so make sure you guys make sure you check, see, subscribe, and share with a friend. Help us grow. Much love. I know outro video anything today. Much love, guys.